It's reported by the Japanese broadcaster NHK that USS Carl Vinson Strike Group has sailed off the coast of Japan towards waters off the Korean peninsula. The deployment comes just hours after the DPRK's failed ballistic missile launch. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson warned the UN Security Council that failure to curb the DPRK's accelerated nuclear program could lead to catastrophic consequences. The presence of the U.S. strike group, as well as the joint military drills of the U.S. and South Korea, are said to be a show of force towards the DPRK.
A United States official said North Korea has launched a missile that landed in the Sea of Japan. The test-fired missile probably was a medium-range ballistic missile called a KN-17. The launch came hours after U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson addressed a special meeting at the United Nations. He called for increased pressure on North Korea. Uruguay UN Ambassador Elbio Rosselli condemned the apparent missile test, saying that it was disgraceful and against international law and humanity.
British police arrested multiple suspects in several counter-terrorism operations during a single day. Police raided 2 residences April 27th, one in London and one in Kent. The Associated Press says 5 were arrested in the London flat and 1 was arrested in Kent. Video footage posted on Twitter shows armed officers firing tear gas into a flat on the northwest side of London before storming inside. A woman was shot during the raid and was taken to the hospital. Police say the raid in London disrupted an active plot. Police arrested another man in a 3rd counter-terrorism operation the same day. 27-year-old Khalid Mohammed Omar Ali was arrested near Parliament, and police allegedly found large knives in his backpack. He was arrested near the site of last month's deadly attack on Westminster Bridge. The Guardian reports investigators believe Ali may have been planning an attack in the same neighborhood. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Mila Uni.
A Pentagon agency said on Friday that the U.S. State Department has approved a possible sale to Israel of 76mm naval guns and technical support worth an estimated $440 million. The Defense Security Cooperation Agency said in a statement it had notified Congress of the State Department decision to allow the possible sale of the 13 naval guns by DRS North America, a subsidiary of Italy's Leonardo SPA.
Secretary of State Rex Tillerson called on the world to drastically increase pressure on North Korea. He warned that failure to do so could be catastrophic and that the United States is prepared to take military action against the rogue regime if necessary. Tillerson urged nations to fully enforce existing sanctions on the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. He wants them to suspend or downgrade diplomatic relations with the already isolated country while increasing its financial isolation by targeting countries and individuals that support its nuclear and ballistic missile program.
Hong Kong police have arrested 9 pro-democracy activists. They were arrested on April 27th in connection with an anti-government protest in November. The 9 activists are associated with several pro-democracy political parties, including the League of Social Democrats and Demosisto. Hong Kong Free Press says 6 of them have been charged with unlawful assembly, 2 have been charged with inciting disorderly conduct in public places, and 1 has been charged with assaulting a police officer. The protests in November happened after China announced it was reviewing a case involving 2 elected Hong Kong lawmakers who were barred from taking office over their anti-China stances. Thousands of pro-democracy protesters clashed with police over China's involvement in the matter. Founder of Demosisto Joshua Wong told The Guardian Hong Kong is, quote, speeding up prosecutions against opposition activists ahead of Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit to Hong Kong in July. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Mila Uni.
The first human head transplant could be less than a year away. Italian neurosurgeon Sergio Canavero reportedly wants to carry out the procedure within the next 10 months. Canavero revealed his plan in an interview with German magazine published April 27th. According to the article, Canavero will perform the first human head transplant in China. He'll work closely with Chinese surgeon Xiaoping Ren. When Canavero first announced his transplant goals 2 years ago, a Russian man with a debilitating disease volunteered to be the first to undergo the procedure. Canavero now says the first operation will be performed on a Chinese volunteer. Many experts have expressed serious doubts about the procedure, both for practical and ethical reasons. citizens. However, Canavero says, quote, massive progress, end quote, has been made in recent experiments, likely in regards to tests he's conducted on animals. Canavero also hopes to carry out the first human brain transplant within 3 years. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Gabrielle Caldwell.
The death rate of humpback whales has been unusually high off the east coast of the United States. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has officially declared it to be an unusual mortality even, or a UME. According to CNN, a UME is a stranding that is unexpected, involves a significant die-off of any marine mammal population, and demands immediate response. In total, 41 humpback whales died last year. Ecologists and scientists are still investigating why.
They say 2 heads are better than 1, and scientists have put that idea to the test. Neurosurgeons have essentially created 2-headed rats. They explained how they did it in the journal CNS Neuroscience and Therapeutics. Italian neurosurgeon Sergio Canavero and Xiaoping Ren of China attached the heads of mice to the bodies of rats. Each test involved 3 rodents, a donor, a recipient, and a 3rd rat to supply blood. Beside the very difficult task of keeping organs alive after the head was removed from the body, scientists had to keep the body from rejecting the foreign head and fuse the spinal cord all within an hour. Most of the animals died within a handful of days, but the donor head seemed to respond well before death. Canavero hopes to soon conduct the first human head transplant. The idea is that a human head transplant could save a person whose body is affected by a deadly disease. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Gabrielle Caldwell.
Israel's housing ministry said it intends to build 15,000 new settlement homes in East Jerusalem, despite U.S. President Donald Trump's request to hold back as part of a possible new push for Israeli-Palestinian peace. A formal announcement of the settlement plan could come around the time Trump is scheduled to visit Israel next month. Israel views all of Jerusalem as its eternal and indivisible capital. However, the Palestinians also want a capital there. Most of the world considers Jerusalem's status as an issue that must be decided through negotiations. Now that it's getting warmer outside, more people are opting for a little-known procedure: belly button plastic surgery. According to New York-based plastic surgeon Norman Rowe, it's, quote, done with every tummy tuck, but performing it alone becomes more popular in the summer months. Some people seek out belly button surgery because they have an unwanted outie. Others undergo the procedure to help tighten a belly button that was stretched due to weight gain or pregnancy. Experts say that both the procedure and the recovery time are pretty quick. Patients can resume exercise after 2 to 3 weeks.
Nationwide strikes led by Brazilian unions to protest President Michel Temer's austerity measures have crippled public transit in several major cities early on Friday. Factories, businesses, and schools have also closed. In the economic hub of São Paulo, the main tourist spot of Rio de Janeiro, and several other metropolitan areas, protesters used barricades of burning tires and other materials to block highways and access to major airports. Police fought with demonstrators in several cities, blocking protesters from entering airports and firing tear gas to free roadways.
China is building the world's largest submarine factory, so big that it will be able to accommodate the construction of 4 subs at once. Bohai Shipbuilding Heavy Industrial Corporation is putting the finishing touches on its new facility, which will begin production later this year. The company is China's only builder of nuclear submarines, building both nuclear attack submarines and nuclear ballistic missile submarines. Its new assembly hall measures more than 430,000 square feet and has enough room for 2 parallel production lines. Each production line is reportedly broken into 2 parts, one dedicated to assembling submarine modules, and the other for finishing the hull with quieting measures. That means there's enough space for 4 subs to be built simultaneously. While the mega factory provides a controlled environment for development and construction, it will also keep subs hidden from prying eyes. For Newsbeat Social from Washington, D.C., I'm Caitlin Mangum.
It's been 2 decades since Ellen DeGeneres first said "I'm gay" on national television. On Friday's episode of The Ellen DeGeneres Show, the 59-year-old comedian celebrated the 20th anniversary of the puppy episode of her 90s sitcom, where her character came out as a lesbian. To mark the occasion, DeGeneres invited the cast of the series onto her talk show, along with Oprah Winfrey and Laura Dern, who both guest starred in the episode, and her wife, Portia de Rossi.
Barbara Byrd Bennett, the former head of Chicago Public Schools, was given a sentence of 4 years in prison after she smuggled $2 million in kickbacks by pushing $23 million in city contracts to education firms. She publicly apologized and stated, "What I did was terribly wrong. I'm ashamed and I'm sorry." Byrd Bennett's actions caused several low-income schools from receiving necessary funding. There were emails found where Byrd Bennett joked about the crime, saying, "I have tuition to pay and casinos to visit."
CNN has reported that police have arrested a man after a security incident near the British Parliament in London on Thursday. The Metropolitan Police said there had been no injuries in the incident, but would give no further details. Pictures on social media showed forensics officers examining the scene and armed police surrounding a man on the ground. Traffic was closed on Whitehall, the street that leads from Parliament Square to Downing Street, the official residence of British Prime Minister Theresa May. The incident took place near the scene of a terror attack last month that left 4 people dead when a car rammed into a crowd as well as a police officer, who the attacker then stabbed near Parliament. The official Transport for London Twitter account said that Whitehall was closed northbound due to a police incident.
In a new poll published by Reuters, more Americans are concerned about the state of race relations in the country. As the president enters his 100th day in office, tensions continue to remain high after months of inflammatory rhetoric on the campaign trail. The poll was initiated from March 28th to April 3rd and engaged more than 2,800 adults on the danger of racism and bigotry in America. Nearly 36% gave it the worst rating possible, saying they consider racism and bigotry an imminent threat to the country.
A U.S. official said North Korea's tested what probably was a medium-range ballistic missile. The official says the missile broke up a couple of minutes after launch and the pieces fell into the Sea of Japan. South Korea's foreign minister warned if the international community does not respond to North Korea's repeated provocations now, that they will only further feed the appetite of the trigger-happy regime in Pyongyang. Yoon Byung-se told the UN Security Council that it should take additional punitive measures before North Korea launches more ballistic missiles, and not afterward.
A new report indicates that increasing acidification of the oceans can cut a crucial component for marine life. According to the report, marine microbes that release nitrogen are hampered by rising CO2 levels. Although the microbes are flourishing, their production of nitrogen is not increasing. That is likely due to the influence of CO2 on the photosynthetic microbes. Alone, CO2 stimulates their growth, but rising acidity in the world's oceans are limiting their ability to produce nitrogen.
On Friday, Pope Francis, speaking at the heart of Sunni Islam scholarship, stressed the important role of unity between Muslims and Christians in shaping world peace. In a speech which emphasized the incompatibility of violence and faith at a peace conference at Al-Azhar University, the Pope said, "Let us say once more a firm and clear no to every form of violence, vengeance, and hatred carried out in the name of religion or in the name of God." The Pope arrived in Egypt on Friday, kicking off a 2-day trip designed to forge Muslim-Christian brotherhood and show solidarity with the country's persecuted Coptic Christian minority. Francis became the first pontiff to visit the institution since Pope John Paul II in 2000, who met with Sheikh Ahmed El Tayeb.
On Friday, President Donald Trump returned to one of his most derogatory insults by referring to Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren as Pocahontas because of her Native American ancestry. Speaking to a crowd of NRA members in Atlanta, Trump said, "It may be Pocahontas who seeks the Democratic presidential nomination in 2020. Trump referenced her support of gun control measures, telling the crowd that she's not big on the NRA. Throughout the 2016 campaign, Trump repeatedly ridiculed Warren, who frequently stumped for Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton.
You have a true friend and champion in the White House. No longer will federal agencies be coming after law-abiding gun owners.
President Donald Trump promised gun rights advocates gathered in Atlanta that he'd come through for them as they did for him during the 2016 campaign. NBC News reports that while addressing members of the National Rifle Association, President Trump stated the 8-year assault on your Second Amendment freedoms has come to a crashing end, assuring them that they now have a true friend and champion in the White House. President Trump is the first sitting president since Ronald Reagan to speak to the NRA. The influential lobbying group endorsed Trump early on during the Republican 2016 primaries.
Donald Trump, who is the darling of the National Rifle Association, has custody of the Oval Office. The Republican-controlled Congress already has ditched an Obama-era rule to tighten access to guns, and a bolder NRA has much more ambitious plans for easing state and national gun laws, as its annual convention unfolds this weekend in Atlanta. But gun control advocates do not want any pity. They acknowledge there's little prospect for them to make gains at the national level. However, they point to increasing success in recent years in the states, where they have enacted a number of measures to require universal background checks and tighten access to guns for domestic abusers.
A product found in most kitchen pantries may help save the world's largest coral reef system. Researchers recently discovered vinegar effectively killed crown of thorns starfish without harming corals or other marine life in Australia's Great Barrier Reef. The starfish, which eat coral, play an important role in the ecosystem. However, there are simply too many of them today. Pollution and runoff has caused their numbers to explode in recent years. The result has been an all-out assault on corals, which can't grow back at a faster rate than they are being eaten. But according to findings released April 27th, a simple injection of vinegar kills the predatory starfish in just 48 hours. Researchers say this new method of culling is not only more efficient than other ones, but it's also much cheaper. The discovery comes at a critical time. Earlier this month, scientists said mass bleaching events had damaged 2/3 of the Great Barrier Reef. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Mila Uni.
The budding relationship between U.S. President Donald Trump and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping may reassure Beijing that the American president understands the importance of good ties, but it also risks leaving America's regional allies concerned over where they fit into the new order. Trump has drastically changed his stance on China after lambasting the country on the campaign trail for stealing U.S. jobs. However, Trump has made clear that his approach to China is transactional. With his focus on securing cooperation against North Korea, his top national security priority, he has even publicly promised to go easier on Beijing over critical trade issues in return for their support with North Korea. Some experts believe the thaw between the economic rivals could be fleeting if Xi fails to come through on the North Korean issue.
South Korea has rejected U.S. President Trump's proposal that they pay for the THAAD missile defense system. The Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, or THAAD system, is designed to intercept missiles in mid-flight. Its deployment in South Korea was agreed to by former South Korean President Park Geun-hye and previous U.S. President Barack Obama. Trump told Reuters on Thursday, April 27th, that he told South Korea it would be appropriate if they paid for the system, which he estimated to cost $1 billion. However, on Friday, South Korea's defense ministry said there's no change in the agreement, that the United States pays for deployment and operation, while South Korea provides land and facilities. Meanwhile, a top foreign policy advisor to Moon Jae-in, the leading candidate in South Korea's presidential election next month, told Reuters that paying for THAAD would be an impossible option. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Matt Paul.